Hey guys, welcome back to another Transparent Couch. I'm Cody.
And I'm Tan. And here on the Transparent Couch, it's not about where you're sitting,
but who's sitting with you.
Okay guys, this one is kind of a heavy topic, but y'all know we get into all of it on this. So we're going to be talking about, hence the title, childhood trauma and how it has affected our marriage. So you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Ladies first. Let you go first. She tells better stories than me too, so that way y'all will stay till later in the video if she starts it.
So with childhood trauma coming from me, one of the things I struggled with tremendously as a child was being bullied. I got bullied in school, bullied at church, just in different little things, different little silos with friendships, and talked about, picked on. And I remember how ugly, unseen, unheard, unacknowledged I felt as a child.
Yeah.
And I was even bullied by certain family members. So it just, and the family members that actually watch this channel, y'all know it's not y'all. So for me, growing up, I never really understood who I was, the beauty that I possessed, and what I brought to the table. So with that being said, that affected our marriage tremendously because one of Cody's biggest love languages is words of affirmation.
Right.
And so he would pour into me all the time, and it just would hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
Mainly because a lot of times I didn't believe it. I did not believe I was beautiful. I did not believe that I was worthy of love in that way. And going through that, being talked about, my teeth, my lips, my skin color, just you name it, I got bullied about it. That internalized and kind of grew with me into high school. It affected how I hung out with friends. I didn't go to school parties. If I did, I was super self-conscious. It affected me in college, y'all. It really affected me in college. It was bad. Like, people talk about how much they love college. I was glad to leave college. Like, I didn't have the best experiences. And not because people did anything to me, but because I just couldn't enjoy it, because I just was not happy with myself. I literally hated everything about me. And so that affected our marriage because coming into it, and we tell people this all the time, marriage is like a magnifying glass, right? It magnifies and amplifies the problems that are already there before you get married. So for me, marriage amplified the insecurities that were already there. And it affected how we showed love to each other. It affected how Cody was able to show love to me. It affected how I saw myself in the marriage. It even affected how I perceived myself when we went out in public. You know what I'm saying? Even me feeling the need for attention from other men. Like me feeling like if another man says something to me, then I must be pretty. Well, my own husband was telling me all the time. And then another thing I could say too that I would say affects our marriage is, as a child, I had a huge fear of being alone. And I'll never forget when my brother left the house to join the military, it was just me, because it was only just the two of us anyway, but it was just me. And my parents would be working or busy, and a lot of times I would just be in my room by myself. And I hated it. I hated it. I hated being by myself. I hated feeling just by myself, sheltered, alone. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't like the feeling. I always wanted friends over. I always wanted to be at a friend's house because I did not like being by myself. And part of that was because why? I didn't like myself. And so that translated into our marriage as clinginess. I always want him around. I want to be around him all the time. He's coming with me wherever I go, whatever I do. And it also turned into a form of anxiety, fear of being alone. He's not here with me. Something's going to happen.
Right.
And so that has affected our marriage. And I could say that I've grown in both areas for sure. I mean, we've been married for going on 10 years now. Man, it has affected us. So much so that Cody was having to steal away to get alone time because I just wanted him around all the time. Not because I necessarily wanted him in my space, but because I didn't want to be by myself.
Yeah.
Toxic, right? But it was the trauma that I dealt with as a child that affected our marriage.
Now you just want me in your space.
Yeah, now I just want you in your space.
Now it's less, she's afraid to be alone versus, which there's still a level of that. You don't like being alone.
No, I don't care. Yeah. I don't particularly care for being alone all the time, but I have moments where I'm like, okay, y'all can go. Y'all can leave. Y'all can really leave, and I will be okay. Like, y'all can leave the house.
Right. I think it's cool because just going back into the words of affirmation piece, for me, it comes from a childhood of, number one, and I know we've talked about this before, I think we have, not having my dad there, and coupled with seeing my mom go through a lot as a child, and just I don't want to say, even though it was never expressed this way, the thought of me being perfect and getting everything 100% right, even if I did something 99% right, the 1% was criticized. And it wasn't good job, but here's how to improve. It was, you should have did X, Y, and Z. And that was at least what I remember, especially through my preteen, teenage years and on up. The words of affirmation I sought, I never received from the people that I genuinely wanted to receive it from. So I think personally that has to do with why it's one of my top love languages, because it's something that I always craved but never really received. I always went through, it felt this way, especially in high school. I went through life feeling that I wasn't good enough. And that's never a good feeling, right? And I think that couples into one of my top love languages. The other one is physical touch, but that's most guys, right? At least that's what I've learned. That's most guys. But words of affirmation is technically my love language, and I believe not solely, but that's one of the reasons why, because I didn't really get it when I wanted it in my childhood, and it was always a sense of being perfect. Another thing, and I actually think this affected our marriage more than the first thing that I mentioned, is I don't want to disappoint or upset the people that I love, that I care about. And it got to the point where even throughout our relationship, marriage, whatever, I would tell a white lie here or there, or lie because I didn't want to disappoint her. I might just try to cover it up on the back end or whatever the case may be. Or I end up doing things that I didn't want to do because I didn't want to disappoint her. And I always had this fear of, if I don't live up to this perfect standard I had for myself, going back to the words of affirmation piece, if I didn't live up to that perfect standard, she would leave. And even though she never vocalized that, it was something she never put in my head, it's what I believed. And that's another piece of childhood trauma. I felt like I had to be perfect to keep her. Because number one, I don't know if I told you this part of the story, she was out of my league anyway. At least I felt that way.
That is not true.
I felt that way. She was out of my league anyway. So there was a part of me deep down, until I was able to vocalize it, which wasn't in the beginning. It took a while for me to put words to this, is I felt like I had to be perfect for her to want to stay with me. And I felt like if there was any consistent mistake or whatever, that she would just leave. So I felt like I had to be perfect. And that's just another way childhood trauma. Now that we're talking about it, I've thought about of 8 more ways, but I don't want this to be an hour-long video. That, in a brief synopsis, is how childhood trauma has affected us. But I just want to interject this, if you don't mind. We've had this conversation about our own children and how we know we can't stop them from going through things out there. But we don't want to be the ones to have them dealing with trauma at home. We want this to be a safe place. I know that word is overused now in this society, but we want this place to be safe for them. I know, and even though it breaks my heart the more I think about it, I can't protect them from everything.
I wish we could.
I want to so bad, but I know I can't. We just have to teach them how to live and pray that they make the right decisions out there. But we also want to make sure that this place, that when they come home, this is safe, that they're not going to have to deal with trauma when they come home. So anyway.
So as you can see, this was a very transparent couch, opening up about things that people don't normally share, I guess, but we wanted to share it because we're hoping that it can help somebody, to be real open, see themselves maybe even in this conversation, to say, man, I struggle with the same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how it was affecting my marriage or affecting my friendships, relationships, work relationships. So yeah, guys, we appreciate y'all watching. As always, we did get a question. I believe it came from Lady Kimberly.
I think so.
And so we're going to answer that here because if you guys ask questions, we want to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
And the question was, what do we want to change about each other? What's something we want to change about each other? And we talked about this, and I think we've talked about this before.
We
mutually came to the decision that it was nothing. And that's not us being cliche. I promise you it's not. And y'all know we'll keep it real and be like, yeah. But honestly, like when I was sitting here thinking, I was like, okay. But if I changed anything about Cody, then he wouldn't be Cody. He wouldn't be the man I married. Are there things that we both wish or types of characteristics or whatever we wished each other had? Sure. I'm sure Cody wished I was more into sports or into some of the things that he's interested in and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, there's nothing I would change about him because then he wouldn't be the man that I fell in love with.
And the beautiful thing about, and I'll try not to go on a tangent here or to go on a long-winded response, but the thing that's beautiful about our relationship, and I've said this to almost everybody that will listen, is we grew together. Mm. And of course, if you asked me, is there anything you would change about 21-year-old Tamra? Yeah, I'd want her to become this Tamra. That's what I would want. And the same thing if I went and talked back to 20-year-old Cody, I would pray that he turns into this one. Not that we're perfect, but there's a clear trajectory here, right? And there's a clear, what's the word? There's a clear mandate for growth. We're not cool with staying where we are. Neither one of us. And what I
will say before we wrap it up, I will say, Lady Kimberly, that's actually a great question. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate the question. Because honestly, I can't say that Tamra 4 years ago would have answered the way. Right. I don't think we would have answered this way.
Yeah.
We probably would have been like, oh yeah, I wish Cody did, or I wish Tam did. But this is just, like he said, a place of growth for us. So Tamra 4 or 5 years ago, even Tamra 2 years ago, probably would have answered differently, honestly. Yeah. So thank you for the question. As we said before, y'all, if you have questions, drop them in the comment section. Yes. We'll either make an entire video about it or we'll make sure we answer it in the next video.
And if there's enough, we'll just do another Q&A and call it a day.
Call it a day.
Yeah.
So thank you guys again for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already to our channel.
Please.
We're trying to get to 3,000 soon. We're going to be posting more shorts here on the channel. So hopefully you guys will continue to support, continue to watch, and continue to grow with us on this channel. We love you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.